Smiley from the Energy Boutique with your energy and ascension forecast for Sunday, July 30th to Saturday, August 5th. So last week we had a lot of moving parts. It started with Venus, of course, going retrograde in the heart and soul of the zodiac in this Leo energy at 28 degrees. That took place on the 22nd, just hours before the sun took his place of power, moved into his rulership here in Leo season. The very next day, we had Chiron, the wounded healer, go retrograde in the Aries energy, really helping us to examine where it is that the wounds are still alive and well, especially with these inner child wounds that got kind of exposed and acknowledged back in Cancer season. Chiron being retrograde is helping us kind of shift our identity. Of course, we're all in the process of rebuilding ourselves, strengthening ourselves, stripping away the layers of ego that has put us in situations, circumstances, and scenarios that are not heart aligned. Chiron going retrograde, of course, is going to help us really attack the areas of concern that need to be addressed as of right now in order for us to kind of tap into a new level of spiritual warriorism where we're able to really take our problems and deal with them head on. We had the first quarter moon take place in Scorpio energy, very transformative, very intense, very revealing as far as new information and emotions go, that had an opportunity to really put us on a different path, a different direction. Now, of course, on the 25th, that was also the day out of time. Of course, we have been closing out some very interesting chapters, and in that, initiating brand new ones. This particular chapter, if you will, kicked off the brand new galactic year that, of course, we dove into on the 26th. And as I'm coming to you live here Friday evening, thank you so much for being with me and for being in the chat. We have Mercury, ruler of the mental plane, ruler of information, ruler of communication, moving into his place of power in Virgo energy. So we're definitely going to feel a dramatic shift in our mental plane with new information and details kind of being revealed. We're moving into this overly analytical phase where we're starting to really put the blinders on, very much focus on the smaller details of our lives, really wanting to examine what isn't working, what is broken, what needs to be fixed, resolved, and solved and healed. This is going to be quite a time. And again, heads up, Mercury will be going retrograde in this Virgo energy later on in August. So this week, what do we got on the go? Well, we're going to close out July. So that's going to bring a little bit of an intensity on the 31st, as it always does, in order for us to learn the lesson. If you need to go back and listen to July's energy forecast intro on what it is that we were supposed to actually learn in July, please go ahead and do that just to see where it is that you're at, what actually happened for you, where it is that you are in or out of alignment with the energies. And of course, when we are closing out a chapter, we are opening up a new one, and we are opening up to August. That brings, of course, multiple layers of different lessons that we have to learn, and there is no better way to dive into what is going to be a very heart-activated major transformation type of month than to kick it off with a full moon. That's right, we're going to have a full moon in Aquarius on the very first day of August. And of course, we're already in the realm of receiving some very high, very intense, potent energies coming in from the quote-unquote Lionsgate portal. I say quote-unquote because you know how I feel about the portal label. But nonetheless, there are some very significant alignments that are going to be taking place around that 8-8 number. We definitely have Venus's retrograde, the phases, the chapters that she's going through, and what she's kind of closing out as she prepares for her rebirth on the 13th. So we're building in these energies, building in these intensities. And may I remind you that it is all about getting back to the real, raw, authentic versions of ourselves. This is going to be quite a time, especially as we move into August, for a couple of reasons, but mostly because that 8-8 portal is all about giving us an opportunity to either stay the course that we're on or to jump timelines, And not everybody needs to jump timelines. And if you're interested in all that kind of stuff, I really invite you to jump over to Patreon, where we talk about that kind of stuff a little bit more in depth and in detail. But it does kind of get a little bit crazy in the final weeks of July. And as we approach that Lionsgate portal, not only because we're closing out a galactic calendar and opening up a new one, but also because we're about to make some very powerful and potent alignments with some of the very, very highly intelligent star systems, if you will. And that's where the Lionsgate portal comes from. It has a huge connection to the star Regularis in the Leo constellation. It has a connection to the rise of the Sirius star that aligns with the pyramids of Giza. It's a whole thing. It's a whole jam. If you want a little bit more of a deep dive on that, definitely join us over in Patreon, and we'll be covering all the highs, the lows, the everything in between. But I think it's important to understand the overlap of all the different cycles that we're in right now. And of course, if you are over on my Patreon and you did a deep dive in the astro class that I put out for Venus's retrograde and all the different phases and chapters and feminine divine energy that she taps into over the course of her 40-day retrograde cycle, then you would know that all of these particular points that I just rattled off are happening in alignment with Venus going through the darkest days of her purge, of her endings, of her closures, of her releasing. Now, we all know that Venus is going to really strip us away of the people, of the relationship dynamics, of the values, of the priorities that are no longer in alignment with our higher selves. We are definitely going to see the peak climactic point, if you will, of false relationships falling apart, of ego-based relationships dissolving and being removed out of our lives. And with that, the ever-changing landscape of our most personal relationship dynamics will continue to change. So that was a lot. It is going to be a lot. We are definitely in for a bumpy, energetic ride, let's say. Not a bad thing, but definitely a lot of irons in the fire moving into August, and especially this very first week. So let's cover a little bit of homework before I jump into the Ascension symptoms this week. First of all, I just want to thank you. I want to thank you for being here. I want to thank you for liking and sharing and commenting. I want to thank you for dropping emojis in all of the comment sections below my videos. It is very, very much helping the algorithm, and I want to thank you so much for your time, your energy, and your effort in really assisting this algorithm to put me back up on the board. Fun fact for you guys. I know, I have people reach out to me all the time and say, YouTube deleted my comment, or, I didn't get the notification for this, or I haven't seen your daily vibes in like 2 months. Let me just say, the daily vibes are a daily thing, okay? I have not missed a day in pretty much the last God knows how many years I've been doing this. If you are not seeing my content on your page or on your feed on a regular basis, you need to go looking for it, because YouTube has a funny way of hiding my content from my subscribers and those that have opted in to actually receive notifications to see it. I don't know what to do about the comments disappearing. I don't even think there is anything that I can do. And as I mentioned, I don't know if it was last week or the week before, but they're kind of messing with the creator studio on this side of things, like, the publishing tools that I have to work with in order to put this content out. It is getting a little bit better. Like, I'm receiving notifications, but all in one clump for like 2 or 3 days gone by of comments that I haven't even seen. I have been trying to actually go into each of the videos that I put out and all the posts that I put out and like manually scroll through to see if I'm missing anybody, because I just do not want anybody thinking that they're being ignored. But I am still having a little bit of a glitch in the system here where YouTube is concerned. So just know that I'm at the mercy of YouTube just as you are, and I have no clue how to fix it. So we're all just going to have to kind of grin and bear it there. But I want to thank you for being here in the chat. If you're joining me Friday evening live in the chat, I love this little community. We all seem to get a little bit of I'm going to say a pep talk, but also a refresher and a renewal through connecting with this little community here on Fridays. It's definitely something that I'm hoping hoping you leave the chat feeling a little bit more aligned, a little bit more validated in your experiences, and of course reminded that you're not alone on this crazy, crazy train. But what I also want to say is thank you very much for dropping a line if you have missed the chat and that you're joining us here on the replay. All of those interactions definitely count, and anything that you want to share about your own experiences and how you resonate with some of the messages that you hear here in these videos definitely help people as they come back and they scroll through the comments to see if they're the only ones experiencing the things that we are all experiencing. So I want to thank you for just being here. I also want to thank those of you who have jumped over to Patreon. Of course, I have to plug Patreon because that is the only place that I actually have control at the moment. And, you know, with the posts, with the content that I put out, I just so greatly appreciate your guys' love and support in all ways, in every way. And of course, over on my Patreon, you get all kinds of access to content that you're never going to get here on my YouTube. That's just a sad kind of situation and story about it. But as we are kind of moving into closing out July, I want to thank those of you that took the discount code that I gave you last week, July 2350, in case you still haven't downloaded your July Zodiac forecast. Definitely recommend you do that because, again, July kind of set the tone, built the foundation, if you will, on some of the energetic experiences that we're going to expand upon here in August. So it is a very important time, especially where we are halfway. I would say halfway through the Zodiac calendar, but we're technically not. Most people think that the halfway is between Virgo and Libra season, which of course that would make sense because, you know, of the Zodiac signs and splitting them up half and half. But the reason why I say halfway is because we're in the heart and soul of the Zodiac right now. So from the beginning of the astrological year that kicked off in Aries season up until this point, we've been building our new self, our new identity, our new wants, needs, and desires. The Leo season energy really integrates that. We get a time to kind of compress all the little bits and fragments together, and we realign as our real, raw, authentic self. So in I guess in the grand scheme of things, considering the fact that from Aries energy to Libran energy, that is the sector of the zodiac wheel that we are perfecting ourselves. And in the realm of perfecting ourselves, we're smack dab in the middle of trying to figure out what needs to stay, what needs to go, and what we need to kind of grow, if you will, within our own identity and within our own physical realms and realities. So again, if you haven't downloaded your July Zodiac forecast, go ahead to my website and enter the code July 2350 at the checkout, and you'll get that at a discount. Also, while you're over there, you may want to download the Leo Season E-Guide if you haven't already. I put that on a 50% sale for everyone as well. And again, reason being for that, Leo season is a very important time. And I did kind of feel like if maybe I discounted some of my content, that y'all would invest in yourselves and really get in alignment under this heart and soul energy before we enter into the next chapter, the next realm of our experiences. So with August coming, of course, you can expect the August energy forecast dropping here soon. Of course, you can expect the August zodiac forecast dropping here soon. And this is a perfect time to consider becoming a Patreon member, because over on Patreon, you get access to all 12. You get access to pretty much all my content over there for a small nominal fee. Whereas if you aren't a Patreon subscriber, you kind of gotta do them one by one and download those zodiac forecasts individually from my website. But again, I'm going to leave that up to you. And of course, as we're entering into August, knowing that there's a full moon in Aquarius kicking off on the very first day of August, you can expect that full moon guide to be released here very shortly. I'm hoping for Saturday or Sunday, but again, I don't like to release those things too far in advance because we need to be in the energy of the moon before you're able to actually have the focus and the attention to sit down and do these guides. When I put them out too soon, all the eager beavers want to sit down and really start, but we're not even in the energy. We're not even in the full moon window in order for your consciousness to actually align and be triggered and activated with the events that are taking place astrologically. So towards the end of this weekend, please go ahead. Please make sure that you are downloading the full moon guide as well, because this is going to be a major release, a major ending, a major illumination, a major closing point, if you will, in order for us to break away from some of the things that we've been exploring power struggles and control issues with, especially being illuminated on the last full moon that we had, because that was the Capricorn energy. And, you know, it's very pivotal. We're reaching, if you will, the midpoint of these cycles. And so, the midpoint always offers us a crossroads point, a choice point, and seeing how this particular full moon is taking place prior to the Lionsgate portal timeline jump. This would be an excellent opportunity to kind of understand where your time, your energy, your focus is needed. So with all of that out of the way, let's talk about the energy and ascension symptoms that we can expect from this week. Now, before I jump into that, I just want to say, when I sit down and map out the week ahead and map out, the highs and lows and the everything in between, I like to kind of see patterns. And I just wanted to give you a rundown here because this past week, we had 3 full moon days in a row. And those moon days, when the only aspects in the round of the day involve the moon, those are emotionally refinement days. That's a time where we get to kind of sit and process. And I think it's interesting that we were gifted those 3 days in a row, especially because it started off with the moon in Libra, which always offers us an opportunity to balance the scales within and really kind of work on accepting and making peace and harmonizing with ourselves, with the world around us. It kind of shifted into that first quarter moon in Scorpio, which just happened to take place on the same day as the day out of time, which meant that we were actually removed of the time-space continuum for that particular point in the matrix. And then we were immersed back in it on the 26th, which essentially kicked off the new galactic calendar, the new galactic year. And with that, having, the third moon day right in a row where the moon in Scorpio does a major deep dive in transforming our psyche, transforming our inner realm of emotions, I just think it's super interesting how these quote unquote coincidences happen. I actually don't believe in coincidences. They're all divinely scripted events. And I think it is just magical to look at the patterns and the cycles that are emerging when you kind of see all the different things happening and where they kind of interact with each other. So with that being said, of course, this week we are kicking off a brand new month that brings a brand new energy, that brings a brand new life lesson, that brings a brand new opportunity for change and transformation. And with that being said, we have the very first day of August. Not only do we have a full moon, but we have 15 different aspects that day, which is a very busy, crazy, chaotic day in the cosmos. We can already kind of expect, we can kind of take a good idea, if you will, snapshot on what we think August is going to bring us, based off of just the very first day of energies. The fact that it is starting on a Tuesday, it's Mars ruled, Mars, of course, and Virgo energy, looking to fix and heal the masculine energies in all of us, looking to fix and heal our own routines, our own ways of, making things happen, our own passions and desires. There's a lot going on there. But then to have the full moon in Aquarius, that of course is going to be ruled over by Uranus, the great awakener, right? He likes to throw wild card energies at us, disrupt us, kind of create a little bit of confusion in order for us to make a spontaneous change. Not to mention that some of the dynamics taking place in this full moon is going to illuminate the emotional release that is needed from acknowledging some of the wounds that have come up since Cancer season, illuminating our inner child. Now, granted, we're in Leo season. That is the child energy. It's a little bit of a different profile of our inner child wounds and our inner child healing. But nonetheless, there is a releasing point that needs to happen in order for us to see the greater, grander picture at play here, our options, our possibilities, because everything that's getting tossed up in the air right now is being tossed up to see what is going to fall and what that means for us as far as our higher selves choosing for us whether or not we are going to revolve, staying on the course that we're currently walking and not timeline jump, or evolve and really just kind of get to a breaking point and say, you know what, I've had enough of this crap. I know exactly what I need to do, and I'm going to kind of position myself to move away from the path in which I've been walking. So it's a very, very important time. What I find even more interesting is that the day after the full moon, so August 2nd, we're going to have a moon day. Now, we also have the moon day. There's 7 different aspects taking place. All of them involve the moon. The moon will be shifting out of the Aquarius energy for the Pisces energy, which is always an ending and closure, a release, if you will. And the day after any moon event is like a lunar hangover. We're not feeling so hot. We have some processing to do. There's a lot of energy shifting within us. And to have a moon day really help us refine the pain and the trauma that we need to release from our unconscious selves in that Pisces energy is going to activate for us just seems like an interesting dynamic. Heads up, Thursday, another moon day. Okay, so this is where I'm getting and it's in Pisces energy. So it's just so significant about the chapters that we're closing, about the wounds that we're healing, about the soul contracts that we're moving away from. And of course, considering the fact that when we bring Venus's energy and effort and cycle and pattern into the mix, she's going to be in that last chapter, that last phase, if you will, of cleaning out her closet, of really identifying what needs to be let go of, what needs to be terminated, what needs to be brought to a completion point, if you will. Again, she's going to have her rebirth on the 13th. And so there's a lot of processing to do from now till then, because she's going to reemerge as the morning star. She's going to rise up, if you will, and resurrect herself in all the best ways. But of course, before a resurrection happens, a death needs to take place, and that's what she's going through. And the Pisces energy of the moon always puts us in an ending, a closure, a death phase, and having all of these energies be kind of triggered and activated under the full moon, and then, released under the days following the full moon as we have moon days to emotionally refine our inner realm, just seems to be a little bit interesting to me. Also, Saturday, another moon day. That time, the moon is going to be in Aries energy. Aries energy gives us a clean slate, a fresh start. And I love that for us because realistically speaking, that's when we're going to get our ducks in a row, if you will. Now, keep in mind, Saturday, August 5th, just days away from the peak potency of this Lionsgate portal, this timeline jump, this alteration of the time-space continuum. And therefore, there's going to be a lot of very intense energies kind of push us to not look back and to only push forward. So definitely in for a very interesting dynamic this week. So let's jump into some of the Ascension symptoms that will likely pop off as we move throughout the energy shifts of this week. What I first want to say is about the heart activations. So you may notice that your chest is heavy. I myself am having a hard time breathing. There's a little bit of a coughing fit going on, a little bit of a clearing, if you will. All of this is heart activations. Maybe your shoulder blades are sore. Maybe you need to crack your back. Maybe you're just feeling the weight of the world on your shoulders. Whatever way your body decides to send you the message that there's something going on in your heart space, that is up to you to kind of decode and discern. We are all having heart activations. We are in Leo season, the heart and soul of the zodiac. We have Venus retrograde in Leo energy. This is heart on heart on heart on heart activations for good reason. We have to crack that outer shell. We have to really bust down the walls, the guards in which we've built. We have to get real and raw and vulnerable with our soul self, with our spirit self. And in order to do that, it requires a lot of discomfort, a lot of realizations, a lot of refinement. And I truly believe that that's why we've been having multiple moon days. multiple days to get our emotions in check, multiple days to sort out what needs to stay, what needs to go, what needs to die, what needs to grow. It's a whole thing. It's a whole vibe. And so however this is manifesting for you, pay good attention. Again, I'll give you a little bit of a rundown. The heaviness in your chest, the coughing fit, is trying to let go of a lot of the old emotions. And it may not make sense to understand that you're having a biological reaction to energy, to emotions, but just trust me when I say it's all connected. Pain, discomfort, illness, ailments, they are all messengers of the body, and they only manifest in the body due to energy blockages or energy disruptions in the meridian channels that we all have in our physical form. If you are having your heart activations kind of more in the back, so again, like I mentioned, shoulder blades, or feeling, that tension in the middle of your shoulder blades, or feeling like you need to crack your back, a lot of that is past issues being resolved, past issues, old circumstances, old memories coming up for renewal. I shouldn't say renewal, coming up for release, for acknowledgement, for integration. Now, some people may renew them, meaning that they don't do the work needed in order to actually examine the emotions coming up from the signals being received by the body. But nonetheless, that is essentially the higher self's choice on whether or not we're going to revolve or whether we're going to evolve. So again, a lot of pressure on that heart activation. You may notice that there's still some congestion going on in the head, in the sinuses. Ears are plugged, ears are clicking. It kind of feels like we're water in our ears, the wah, wah, wah going on. A lot of this is because we are rapidly changing. We are receiving light codes that we don't even know that we're receiving due to traveling through the particular point of space that we find ourselves at in order to align with some of these star systems that, of course, give us messages through the light codes that were being downloaded into us, where we are essentially activating the remembrance part of our DNA from our starseed origins. It's a whole thing. I know it sounds like sci-fi, but it's an actual whole thing. It's very real. And I'm going to say, we know it's real because we feel it in our physical bodies. Nobody can deny the discomfort. Nobody can deny the pain, the illness, the dysfunction going on, the changes going on in our body. That is all energy activated. So a lot of the congestion in our heads, we're going to feel that pressure, not necessarily stay as far as feeling like a head cold, because now that Mercury is moving into his place of power in Virgo energy, we're going to have multiple tabs opened at one time. Like, just kind of understand that we analyze the shit out of everything when Mercury is in Virgo for good reason. We have to kind of examine what's going on, how we got here, what we're enjoying, what we're not enjoying, what needs to change, what needs to transform, what is broken, what needs to be fixed, what is okay but could use some improvements. These are all the things that are really going to bring a brand new intensity to the mental plane. So you may find that we're shifting out of the snotty like congestion of, a sinus headache or allergies or a head cold that many of us have been experiencing throughout Cancer season. And now the intensity, the pressure is going to be at the fact that we are rapidly processing so many different points of view, perspectives, details, and information that we honestly don't even know that we are engaging this supercomputer that our brains actually are. And so there is going to be a little bit of a interesting dynamic, because we go from having blinders on and having tunnel vision to suddenly losing the train of thought, and then jumping on and being fixated on a topic and theme until we can come to some sort of resolution, and then all of a sudden not know what we should be thinking about next, not knowing what we should tackle next. So there is going to be a change, I would say, in the head pressure, but not necessarily releasing the head pressure. It's just going to move from congestion feeling, snotty feeling, to a very dry but very intense type of internal processing. I want to talk to you guys about this particular symptom. I think this is so interesting. Y'all ever have an itch, but underneath your fingernail, like literally, like you feel like you would have to peel your fingernail off in order to scratch it, which of course we're not going to do because that's disgusting and painful. But like how are you supposed to itch an itch that is unitchable under your nail bed? And maybe it's not fingers, and maybe it's taking place in your toes. Let me just say this, wherever it is happening, we have chakras in our palms, energy centers in our palms. One hand is for receiving, the other one is for projecting. In our feet, we have soul chakras that connect us to Mother Earth. And, as we know, we are a conduit of energy. We are essentially, little energy harvesters, if you will. We're the conduit between the earth and the higher cosmos above. We're receiving information and intelligence from above. We're receiving information and intelligence from below. And our goal as human beings is to clear out our physical bodies, our physical form of the emotional gunk that kind of blocks and gunks up the meridian channels in our bodies that basically takes the data packets of electricity and information from our crown to our feet. We have been going through, especially over the last year, we've been going through the activation phase of our palm chakras and of our soul chakras. And basically what that means is, and not that I want to get too biblical on you here, but there is one theory, and again, I'm not trying to push anything on anybody. I'm just going to throw this out there and see how you feel about it. There is one theory that if we were to take some of the biblical allegories that, of course, many people have taken way too seriously and have basically individualized and personified, if we do take the Jesus story of having those nails put into his hands and into his feet in order to hang him on the metaphorical cross, let's say, the reason for that was to basically break the connection in the palm chakras and in the soul chakras, which means that he wasn't able to be that conduit. He wasn't able to have that free flowing energy from above and from below. And so over the last year or so, we, in our remembrance and our reactivation of our DNA and our embodiment of the Christ consciousness, which of course we are all here to embody, we have been repairing our palm chakras and our soul chakras. And that's why we've been experiencing weeks where a lot of accidents happen, damage happens to our hands, where our hands are cramping. They go from hot and sweaty to cold and clammy. We're breaking nails, we're jamming our hands indoors. These are all energy and efforts in order to not restore the energy chakras in our palms and in our soles of our feet. We've been tripping over our feet. We've been having cold feet. We've been spraining ankles. We've been, all of these little tiny accidents are I'm going to say, Earth matrix egoic programming to prevent us from remembering who it is that we are and essentially evolving into opening up all of our energy centers and restoring that energy alignment within us. And of course, putting us in a situation where we're fully activated in remembrance once again. So the itchiness, as we've been talking about, itchiness is a sign of healing. But under the fingernail beds or the toenail beds, my goodness, how irritating is this? Now, I have no good, solid solution for this other than shaking your hands out and understanding that you carry a lot of energy in your hands. And if you don't have a clear conduit, a clear channel for your receptive hand and for your projection hand, then definitely do some exercises, maybe nurture those particular areas. As far as the feet are concerned, go out, stomp on the grass, immerse yourself in cold water, salt water if need be, maybe some sand, some dirt, whatever the case may be. All of these acts, all of these practices are our conscious effort to restore the unconscious tampering of our DNA plates, basically. And I don't know, for those of you that are like, what the F is she talking about? it's too much for me to go into here, but those of you that have been with me for a long time, those of you that have been on this journey for a long time, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So it's just this point, this pivot point that we're at right now, where we're just like leveling up so freaking quickly that of course we are going to experience a little bit of dysfunction in these particular areas of our body. So I want you to pay attention to your eyes. Maybe your eyes have been sleepy lately, or you get the sleepy crusties in your eyes all day, or the gunkiness is coming back. We're blinking a lot more lately in order to kind of clear our vision because we're having a hard time seeing what is actually going on in our lives and the world around us. We are kind of essentially morphing out of the old and anticipating moving into the new, but even though our physical realms still seem relatively the same, everything looks different. Now, whether it be to the hue, the saturation, the vibrancy of the colors, whether it be just seeing people, things from a different set of eyes, a different perspective, either way, there is a metamorphosis going on in our visual field. And again, biologically speaking, our physical bodies, when we receive all of these energies, it is an upgrade to our sensory system that makes us feel like we're kind of glitching out. And again, keep in mind that the human eyes can only see within a very small portion, a small window of the light spectrum. And a lot of the things, especially metaphysically speaking, like, you know, spirits and orbs and extra, well, what do I want to say there? Extra sensory perception, if you will. That is on the outside of the window that most people are allowed to see. So anytime that we're going through a major upgrade, a major shift, a major pivot point, we usually have some sort of dysfunction going on in our eyes, in our sight, in our perspectives. And a lot of that can manifest just with feeling like your eyes are dry or your eyes are gunky, or you're having to kind of blink multiple times in order to clear your field of vision. There are, you know, always new opportunities to expand that spectrum within, you know, your own experiences. And that's where, you know, people start seeing shimmers of light and start seeing orbs and start seeing the threads in the matrix programming and, you know, the binary codes and all of these really interesting dynamics that aren't quote unquote normal for the human eye to actually see. So I want you to pay attention to what is actually happening to your visual field over the course of this week. Now, temperature. Our temperature has been fluctuating. Many of us have been running hot. A lot of that is because we just moved into a fire season. Leo energy, of course. Fire energy. I want to talk about the night sweats though, because of course our dreamscape is ever changing, and every single time we enter into a new realm of experience, there is a cryptic type of landscape change, let's say, in our dreamscapes at night. We aren't really in the astral realms, but we're not really in a dream state either. The reason why I'm bringing this up is because many of us are having night sweats, and I want you to pay attention if you're waking up with night sweats, what time of night you're actually waking up, because our body, when we sleep, goes through a whole process where different organs are being kind of detoxed throughout the night. And a lot of the reason of why we're waking up with night sweats at this particular point in time is because many of us are going through the detoxing of our organs. And a lot of the time our organs are kind of all gunked up, whether it be from the stuff that we're actually putting into our physical bodies or the residual emotional energy that we're hanging on to. Regardless, there's some kind of factor there that is creating a dysfunction in the detox processing of the night. So for instance, if you wake up at like 2:30 in the morning, you can actually look up what organ is being detoxed at 2:30 in the morning and kind of connect that to your chakra system, connect that to the energy of emotion of that chakra, and really kind of see what the issue is. And maybe that might spark something in you. Maybe that acts as the catalyst for an aha moment on what it is that you need to focus your time, your energy on processing. But either way, these night sweats, man, they are something else. And, not that we totally got rid of, it was a couple of weeks ago that I spoke about like our body odor changing. It's still, there's still some people that are just experiencing this for the first time. Well, others of us were like 3 weeks into this particular ascension symptom. A lot of that happens like when we're changing the energy dynamic, when we're in a realignment, when we're in a recalibration type of phase within ourselves, within our energy centers. It does have a major impact on the output of our biological body system. And so, yeah, these night sweats, they stink. They don't smell good at all. I mean, sweat never really smells good, but there is a different kind of funk coming out of us at this particular point in the path. And I want you just to kind of pay extra attention to the timing that you are waking up at night in this ball of stinky sweat, and just kind of understanding the direct connection to what organ needs your attention for emotional and energetic processing. That funky mouth taste, that film, those sweaters on our teeth, that's still here. And, we talked last week about how our cravings were going to change, our dietary needs were going to change. I mean, that's an ever-changing landscape. Our digestion is always changing due to the energy fluctuations. Most of that is because some of the energy fluctuations come in and all we want to do is ground, which means that we turn to processed foods and gross foods that we shouldn't be putting in. And then all of a sudden we have energy that wants to purify us. So then we're not eating as much and we're not eating as frequently. And what we are eating are life force energy, such as vegetables and fruits. So this constant back and forth with giving our body what it is that it's craving, I think is doing a little bit of a shit show on our gut biome. And seeing as the solar plexus is going through an upgrade, and that sits, right below your rib cage. Yes, that can kind of create bubbles, gas bubbles. It can also trigger acid reflux, but I kind of feel like it is going to the further extent of really kind of resetting our gut biomes. And when our gut biomes get reset, it does kind of change the taste of our spit, and of course change the taste in our mouth, and of course change the texture in our mouth as well. So that's going on, and it's really not that much fun. Don't really enjoy these types of sensory experiences at all. But it's just, the time, the season, the chapter, the phase that we are going through. Want to talk about the discomfort that many of us are having in our lower extremities, especially with our knees and with our ankles, whether it be pain or clicking or popping or spraining them, whatever the case may be. There's a lot of rigidity down there, and a lot of that is because we hold fear in our knees. Now, if you're having more ankle discomfort, over knee pain, that's because the steps that you have to take, but you're hesitant in making them. If the energy is blocked in your knees, it's because you're holding fear in your knees and therefore not knowing the path forward, or fearful of the path forward and therefore not willing to take a step at all. So depending on where you're feeling the pain and the discomfort more, that's going to indicate where it is that you're at in your mental plane as far as planning and strategizing the path, the movement, the action, the steps moving forward, and what they actually are and how you actually feel about them. I think it's an interesting dynamic. Comment below if you are resonating with this particular ascension symptom. But do y'all notice how, my lips are dry, my eyes are dry, I feel like I have a dry cough. I feel like everything is dry, but yet my skin has gotten more oily, which makes no sense to me. I don't really understand that at all, other than the fact that maybe now, because we're in the fire season, it kind of dried us off, if you will, from all of that water energy that we were sitting in Cancer season, all of that emotional energy that we were sitting in through Cancer season. So I can understand the fire energy kind of drying us off, but like the oiliness, you would think that the skin would be oily as well, I guess is what I'm getting at. It feels like our skin is kind of oily, kind of clammy. kind of poofy, if you will. I have swollen fingers. I have, I don't know. I have a lot of discomfort in my skin, and I'm wishing that I could take some of the oiliness and kind of redistribute it, if you will, to the areas of my body that are overly dry. And it's just this weird dynamic. I don't know if you're experiencing it too, but it just kind of feels like there is a little bit of a rebalancing that needs to go on. We kind of went from one extreme to the next, and now we need to find ourselves back into a comfy middle ground. I don't know if we're going to find that this week. I kind of suspect, and this is just me kind of, guessing, if you will. I would suspect that the reset is likely going to happen on the 13th. And a lot of that is because Venus gets reborn and resurrected on that day. And that has a major impact on us, guys. I know it's hard to believe, but, all of these planets are basically, if you could visualize all of these planets and they all have their own color, let's say, or their own sound, their own frequency, and they all have threads. Well, we are made up of each of these threads. And so when the planets kind of go through their own shit, if you will, and are growing and are healing and are transforming, that has a reverberatory effect. It's almost like those signals come down these invisible threads and alter that part of our DNA that particular energy kind of rules over. And so I would suspect that because we're in this very interesting overlap of, closing out the old galactic calendar, we're in a new one, then we reach a full moon release, and then, we're into timeline jumping, and some of us are going to stay and some of us are going to go. And again, may I remind you that it's up to your higher self. This isn't a conscious effort. And may I also remind you that not everybody jumps, and it's not a bad thing if you need to stay the course and stay the particular life lessons that you're already on the track and learning. It's not a good or bad pass or fail thing. It's just where you're at in the evolution of your soul's potential. And so where we're kind of on the precipice and cusp of all these overlapping systems and cycles, it does very much feel like the realignment, the recalibration will be locked in around the 13th with Venus's resurrection, with her rebirthing, if you will, with her renewal. And I think that has a major impact on our physical bodies. And of course, on the part of our psyche and a part of our emotional field that Venus rules over. So we likely have a couple of weeks left of really kind of watching our body systems go through the highs and lows in order to find that happy medium, that happy middle ground. But nonetheless, we are going to be going through it all together. That is the whole point of this lovely little journey, is that collectively speaking, we are all leveling up, we are all realigning, we are all recalibrating in order to kind of lead the charge into this next chapter, into this next phase. So guys, that is all the information that I have for you for this week. I want to thank you so much for showing up for me, but I want to mostly thank you for showing up for yourself, understanding what's going on, investing in yourself, doing the work, doing the energy work that is necessary in order to uncover some of these buried, repressed emotions are definitely the name of the game. It's not an easy journey by any means, but we didn't sign up for easy. We signed up because we're warriors, and we are going to do exactly what warriors do, which is just keep our head down, keep our eyes on the prize, and just fight through every single challenge and obstacle that is thrown our way. I hope that we close out July on a very good note, that we are bold and brave and courageous in this Leo energy to really enter into August with a sense of pride, a sense of knowing, a sense of opening up to the pivot points that we can expect to be put right in front of us for us to change our thoughts, change our heart, and essentially change our direction. I hope we all are going to get in a excited mode of attitude and really jump into August with everything that we got. Stand proud in our own power, in our own truth, align with a new mission and purpose, and go for it. Thank you so much for joining me. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for sharing your time, your energy, your effort with me and with everyone here in this beautiful community. I am sending you nothing but love, and we'll talk to you soon.